welcome everyone. So we have a small group today, which is nice because everyone gets to ask their questions. Everyone should know Ben here because Ben is featured in all 15 challenges. Oh, some of you have not gone through the challenge, but most of you have. So, well, Ben is here. It's really great to have him because he doesn't usually do this kind of event. So grateful that he spared 1 hour for us. And the reason why I use Ben for all the examples, some of you know already, because from what I see, he's just super authentic and he's not overthinking about building in public too much. It's just, quite natural for him. So that's the kind of public builder that I envision people should get to. That's why I use Ben as an example. He doesn't even know about that until I told him. Ben, thanks for joining us. First of all, let's not talk about building in public. Let's not talk about business. Let's get to know you as a person. Who are you? What should we know about you?
Okay. Well, thanks for having me on. Like you said, actually, I had no idea I was featured in so many of your challenges until you told me. And I still find it pretty weird. It's like people learning from me, and I don't really think I deserve to be learned from. So it's going to be imposter syndrome city today. Who am I? I am a 30-something. I always forget my age because what is time once you're over 30? But I'm over 30. 2 kids living in the UK. And for years, I worked as a partner engineer or sales engineer, technical account manager, depending on the company, they have these kind of titles, where it's basically like you're technical, but you're also kind of doing sales, which I kind of just fell into after I graduated. My undergraduate was physics because I wanted to go do saving the world with solar power and nuclear energy and fission and all this. And it turns out that is not the degree to take if you want to save the world. You need to do engineering, and physics is just great fun. But it's only really good for learning to make weapons or becoming like a financial quant. And I didn't want to do either of those things. So instead I fell into like a half technical role. And since then, well, forever, I've been teaching myself to code. So I spend most of my life learning to code, having fun side projects, doing semi-technical work in the day. And that kind of thing. Outside of work, run. I used to be massive. I used to be 100 and something kilos. I was like, or for the Americans, like, I don't know, I can't even remember now, but a lot of stone. I was technically obese according to my body mass index because I drank too much alcohol all the way through my university years. So at some point I was like, no, enough of this. I'm going to run, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to get fit. And now I am like fit marathon running, good stuff. Some of you probably saw that I have this running streak that I've been running at least 2 kilometers every day for like 5 years. And that's part of like trying to be a healthier, better person and not the like lazy fat guy I once was. So who am I? I'm a runner, I'm a techie, I'm a dad, I'm a coder, and I'm trying to make money and support my family doing these things.
So good thing you mentioned about the running streak, because I noticed you haven't been on Twitter for 10 days and I was worried about your being. But did you keep up with your running streak, or did you also don't have time for that?
Always. The best thing about running just 2K a day, 2 kilometers a day, is like it only takes 10 to 12 minutes if you have no time. So I always do it. I had no problem keeping it up. But since my second baby was born, like it has been like 2 kilometers most days. It's been the 10 to 12 minutes most days. I have not been keeping up like the volume. I used to run like 50 kilometers a week, and now it's more like 10 or 20. So that's tough, but the streak is alive and it's going to go back to marathon mode soon.
I think it's the new that, I mean, when you have a baby, you don't have time to do a lot of things. So I haven't been running as well. Hey, Ben, so I know from reading your tweets and following your journey, you're not working full-time anymore. You have made this transition to build your own products and do your own freelancing and enjoying like the freedom that it gets. But I want to know, like, how did you plan this transition? Like, most people don't know how or when to make that leap. So just want to know how you think about it.
It was really hard to make the decision, actually. So I've always wanted to work for myself. I always wanted to be like entrepreneurial and build my own business and support my own, well-being with like writing software, basically. Somebody tweeted the other day, like, what was your first Amazon purchase? And I looked it up and it was 2006, and it was a bunch of like entrepreneurial books in 2006. So like for a long, long time, I really wanted to do that. But I never had like the idea, or if I had the idea, I didn't have the revenue, or if I had the revenue, it wasn't enough revenue. Meanwhile, like we have to pay rent, we have to pay bills, all this kind of stuff. So it was never the right time. Then I got super lucky and I ended up working for Google. And honestly, I made a lot of money working for Google because it's Google. And that luck of ending up in that job, like we made a big point of keeping our lifestyle like cheap, keeping our expenses low. So I still spend about the same every month now that I spent 10 years ago before I worked at Google. So a combination of like saving all that big money, having a massive savings account and not spending very much meant that eventually I got to the point where I could afford to just take the risk and quit. And when I took the risk and quit, it was like, okay, I've got 2, 3, 4 years. After that, I need to go get a job again because I'm the only one who earns money in my family. My wife is a full-time mom. But what's the worst that happens? I burn some cash that I didn't know what to do with anyway. I find out that I am a failure and I can't do it, and I get another job. What's the best that happens? I have success. I get to be free. I get to live the dream and all that good stuff. And actually, like that cash, I mean, I know this is so lucky and privileged to say this, so I know this will rub some people up the wrong way, but for me, the cash wasn't doing anything because we had low expenses and nothing we needed to buy. So that was the right thing to do with it. So I agonized for months. I wrote like a 7,000 word document to me and my wife and my family, like explaining what I was going to do. I edited it relentlessly. I sent it around over and over again. And in the end, I just decided, like, let's do it. And that was 3 weeks before COVID. And I was like, I'm going to hand in my notice. I'm going to quit my job on March the 28th. And then COVID happened. And I was like, oh, I really, really can't do this now. What's going to happen to the world? So I put it off for 3 months. 3 months later, actually, from a financial perspective and a jobs perspective and everything else, things were okay in the UK at least. So I thought, okay, I can just go ahead and do it. Let's make it happen. Let's go. But it took so much agonizing to do it. If you're not sure, I recommend like write yourself a long document saying like what you're going to do, why you're doing it. If you're staying in the job, why are you staying in the job? If it's for money, what could you do to reduce the amount of money you need? Like what really is the risk of you leaving? Is it just burning cash or is it debt? Because debt's a very different thing. And I'm not recommending anyone tries to go into debt. Like anyway, if someone really wants to see my long document that I wrote, I might share it privately with a few people. It's very personal, so I don't want to just publish it, but hit me up on DM if you really want to see it.
You definitely come across as a very conscious and mindful person. So do you have any goals that you like, any master plan? For some people, they might want to work on one product and then just get all the revenue there. But some people want to have 10 products and make a little bit here and there. How do you think about that?
I always have a master plan. Like I actually had a document called the master plan that I wrote like 5 years ago, which was leading up to quitting the job and all this kind of stuff. One thing I've learned is that the master plan is really useful for making progress, for going forward, for taking risks. And it's really useless at actually predicting what you're going to do. Like I've never done what was actually in the master plan, but it kept me going, it kept me thinking. So my master plan when I quit was like Spell Tracker, which is my 4K a year like consumer app. I was going to try and build that and double that and maybe do a few more apps around the side. And I was going to explore some new areas. What I actually did when I quit was neither of those things. Like I started a new business with my brother-in-law because he happened to be free at the same time. I ended up getting some consulting work because it fell into my inbox from people I knew. And I was like, let's take this opportunity. This is great. SQL for Humans, some of you may have heard, like I'm writing an info product course, like on being a better developer with SQL, being comfortable with your database. That basically came about because I was just tweeting at 4 a.m. about SQL things, like while I had my baby on my chest. And then it got amazing response and thousands of people loved it. And I was like, well, everyone wants it. I should turn this into a course. This is great. So have a master plan, but actually my real strategy is I'm still experimenting right now. I don't know what the big thing is going to be, what the winner is going to be. Like I've got a $4,000 a year product. I've got one that made $20,000 in like 2 months. I've got one that's made 0 and one that's made 0, one that's made 0. And I don't know which one is going to be like long-term sustainable yet. The $20,000 one sounds amazing, but it might make nothing for the next 6 months. I just don't know. So I'm experimenting. Whenever there's excitement, whenever there's like traction, I try and run with it. And eventually I think I will find the big thing and I will double down on it. But right now it's just like maintain flexibility, consulting like pays for my bills, and I move from there. When I can have like products paying my bills instead of consulting, I will be super happy. I'm not there yet. So at this point, I'm still just finding out what's interesting.
Very cool. So I see some questions coming in about building in public. So let's go there. Our main focus. I want to ask you, like, building in public means like sharing your personal journey, ups and downs from all different angles, and you're so natural at it. What's your philosophy behind telling a story or writing those tweets? Is there any books or belief that have helped you over the journey?
I think if you see my very first tweets, like when I started reactivating my account, I was following a bunch of like 5,000-6,000 follower accounts or 10,000 follower accounts. And I thought the way to be successful on Twitter was like vague wisdom, fortune cookie stuff and all that. So it was just kind of doing vague stuff like that and occasional threads, and no one cared. And I didn't really have anything interesting to say, and it didn't work. So I naturally just kind of tweeted what came into my head and found that actually people cared about it a lot more. And then over time, I've kind of developed a bit of a strategy. So basically the goal is like every day I want to have 2 or 3 tweets scheduled in. I use Chime, made by Spencer Jones, because it's awesome and Spencer is awesome. And all of them should like reflect something in my bio. So it should be like parenting or self-funded business like growth, or living to the year 2100, which is like my general catch-all for health related stuff. And I want the tweet ideally to be about something that I've like just done or I've been thinking about, or something I did in the past. So basically I want every tweet to be like related to something real in my life, past or present, as something in my bio. And then people generally just kind of seem to be interested because they knew that's what they were getting, and it's not just vague bullshit. I like always try and end it with like a statement or a open question or whatever to try and encourage a bit of response, but like that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is it has to be real. I guess I try and think about like stuff that I would be interested in if I'd seen it a month ago, like problems that I've had today. If I saw a tweet about that a month ago, that would be interesting. Or something I think would have inspired me 3 or 4 years ago, like, oh, you're on a 5-year running streak, awesome. Like that would have blown my mind 5 years ago. So now I should tweet about it today, because if I find it interesting, like other people will too. So that's kind of how I go about the building in public stuff. And then whenever I think I've got an interesting idea and I want to like test interest in this and test whether it's worth building or pursuing or talking about more, I tend to try and like start a thread in Typefully, which is like a really nice free web app. And I just copy edit the hell out of it. Like I will write this thread, I will just go over and over and over again, copy editing as much as I can to try and like get a good structure to it, and then just throw it out there. And most of my threads have done like reasonably well, because again, it's not just like generic tagging, it's not just generic advice. It's like, here's something I'm interested in, here's something that I want to tell you and communicate, and hopefully get some feedback on.
Hey Ben, Kevin said earlier about you're very natural on Twitter, and it appears you're very natural on Twitter. And my question is it natural, or does it come easy to you? Is it hard? Is it something you've not been good at to begin with and seen progress and made you better? Is there hope for us who are scared by Twitter? Is my question. It's my second question.
I definitely think there is hope. Like when I look at this, like, so Chris, I recognize you from Twitter, right? Like, I don't know if we've ever spoken before, or even DM'd maybe, but I recognize your face and your name. And like, so you're not bad at Twitter straight away because I know who you are already, right? So okay. I think, yes, there is hope for us all. Am I natural? I think part of this is because I've been like vaguely sales all of my life, all my working life. I've always had to like think carefully about how I'm writing, and is it going to send the message that I want to send to whoever's reading it. Because often like that's about making the sale or moving things forward and so on. So I write naturally whatever is in my head, but I never just post that. It's like write naturally whatever's in my head and then give myself a chance to like reword it or go over it a couple of times before I do. So it's like natural thoughts with then a bit of copy editing based on like years of sales-ish experience. So I don't know, does that answer your question? Of like,
yeah, I guess, yeah, it does. I think just to sort of add a second bit onto that, I mean, do you factor in the term personal brand? Do you care about that? Or is it okay? You said about your master plan earlier for your businesses and the rest of it. Do you have a sort of similar plan around the personal brand? I hate the term, but just for the sense of
if you ask me what my personal brand is, or like, do I have one, or what do I want it to be? I have no idea. I legitimately don't think I know what my personal brand is. I don't ever have it in my mind when I'm tweeting, except I guess to reflect my bio. And my bio was just written based on like my website from 10 years ago, whatever. Like, it's like, what do I think sums me up as a person if I'm meeting people? Like, what do I want people to know about me if I meet them? I want them to know I'm a runner, I'm a developer, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a dad, right? So like, that's as far as my personal brand goes. Beyond that, I actually feel like I'm ridiculously inconsistent on Twitter. I feel like if people were looking at my feed, they would think like, what the hell is this? He's tweeting about coffee, then intermittent fasting. Now he's doing a Postgres query. Like, what the hell is this account? And I feel like I do a really bad job of being consistent, but it doesn't seem to affect growth in anything. It seems to increase growth. And I think that's because either people like the combination, or I've just found that actually there are tens of thousands of people out there who have exactly the same interests as me. I don't know. Anyway, like, basically, no, I don't think too much about personal brand other than give people what I've told them I'm going to give them in my bio.
Fair enough. Good answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Ben. So I think most of it is answered already, but I'd still ask. So you, couple of months back, you wrote about your last name, and the combination, it's a combination of two last names, I think. And it's an incredibly personal story. That is something which I would never write in public. Because I'm naturally introverted. I'm not very good to. So again, your sales background perhaps helps you there. So yeah, that's what my question is. That are you naturally extroverted? Plus, have you found the right mix of people on Twitter to interact with and to share your such personal stories with? Because you've even spoken about white privilege. You speak about parenting, obviously, and tech as well. So that, as you said, it's a wide mix of things that you talk about. How important it is to be able to find the right kind of people who interact with you on the platform? And do you get any hate for some of the controversial stuff that you write?
So, good question. I don't think of myself as extroverted. I think of myself as being quite introverted as well. And I think it's just that the internet gives me a chance to seem more extroverted than I am, or to like put myself out there a bit more because I'm not directly in front of a crowd. In terms of like the personal stuff, like the last name stuff and the white privilege and all this kind of stuff, I used to have in my bio, I can't remember if it still fits or not, like super lucky was one of the things about me. And I really do feel like I am a very lucky person. A lot of good stuff comes my way in life. I feel like the world drops opportunities on my lap all the time. And whenever I think about that, I realize like a lot of that is down to the fact that I am like a white dude in a rich country. And that's kind of why I like say I'm a feminist in my bio as well. Like, I try and think about like, what are the opportunities that I have and that make me feel lucky that other people don't have just because of the accident of their birth, like that they were born a woman or they were born in a poor country or whatever. Like, somehow society like doesn't give them the same opportunities. So I'm not like trying to tell these stories because I want people to like me or because I'm trying to like I don't know, encourage people to feel close to me. I'm doing it because I'm trying to like raise awareness and raise consciousness around like these issues. One thing I haven't tweeted about much yet, I guess I'm a little bit scared of, is like I used to be back at my university days, I was in the Atheist Society. In fact, we set up the Atheist Society because we were on a very religious campus that was full of a lot of people who were very strongly Christian or very strongly Muslim and so on. And there was no like group for people who felt like they didn't believe and didn't feel the need to believe. We set one up not to be antagonistic, but just to be like, it's okay for you not to believe. And we even set up like interfaith discussion groups and stuff because it was interesting to have those conversations, right? Anyway, my point being, like, ever since that time, I've thought a lot about, I want other people to feel, how do I put this? Like, I want people to think about the luck they have. I want people to think about the privilege they have. I want to like make them realize that they too can be nice to other people and make life easier for other people. And that's the point of these stories I'm telling. Do I get hate from it? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I get like, it's usually actually the cryptocurrency guys that are sending me hate when I'm anti-Bitcoin more than anything else. But you know, Twitter is not a good place to argue. So I just block, I mute, I get rid of people. I don't respond and don't engage. And I'm not like looking for a particular follower group. If you care enough that you want to follow me, great. If you don't, great. If I have 300 followers, fine. If I have 3,000 followers, great. Like, my goal here is really just like keep chatting, find people that do have aligned interests with me, and you know, raise awareness on the way.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And I think as an introvert, I have to get out of that zone and start speaking my mind a lot more as well. Because when you're starting out with a small account, there's a huge focus on sticking to your niche and not, you know, taking on controversy unnecessarily or not speaking your mind in a way.
Yeah, I mean, just to draw the distinction between taking on controversy and speaking your mind. I try and have like tweets that are very like pro something. Like I want my tweets to be about like pro feminism, pro equality, and this kind of stuff, rather than like taking on controversy. Earlier this week, I'm not going to name names, but like there was someone who's in the same sort of circle as us who like said something that was pretty awful, some pretty awful tweets relating to some ongoing like controversy on Twitter relating to some women who had raised problems. Anyway, the overall thing here was that this person who was quite like prominent had basically been very like sexist and unhelpful and so on. And even though I strongly felt that that was a dick move and I wasn't happy with that person, I didn't want to call them out and start a fight on Twitter about it because I don't want to fight on Twitter. It doesn't help. It doesn't really change minds too much. What I did instead was I liked a bunch of the positive pro things around it instead of like directly fighting with the guy. So I think it's about like lift people up, give the love, like the good stuff, try not to engage with the bad stuff, and you kind of have the same end effect, is my feeling anyway.
I actually have like a million questions, but I will limit myself. My question is really around when you talked about like how you have a hodgepodge or portfolio of products, some that have revenue, some that don't have revenue. I'm at the stage where I currently only have one product and still trying to, find the initial customers, but I kind of do want to take this like shots on goal approach of like just throwing a bunch of products out there. I'm curious as to your approach on even the ones that have, let's say 4K, 20K revenue. How do you decide to kind of move on to the next one? Why aren't you doubling down and like expanding on sales and marketing efforts via Twitter or any other channel? How do you actually decide to keep moving on and switching products?
It's a really good question. So I like the portfolio of small bets thing in that I like that I don't have all my eggs in one basket, but actually I wouldn't deliberately go after that. I started out with my 4K product, Spell Tracker, because it was the one that I had for years that I built as a side project. I decided to move on from that because I looked at my growth for the last few years. I looked at like the total addressable market that I thought I could reach. And I decided that actually it was going to be really, really hard, and the market was shrinking, for it to ever pay my bills. So I needed something new. And that's okay, because Spell Tracker was never started to like pay all my bills. It started as a fun side project that ended up accidentally making money as a hobby. Like that project was initially like something just me and my friends that wasn't even on the App Store. I put it on the App Store as a learning experience. I monetized it as a learning experience, blah, 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 blah. So I moved on from that because I knew it was never going to support me enough. The thing I moved on to, Observant, is the like YouTube software as a service business that I have, making 20K so far. I moved on to that because like several of my consulting clients had asked me for the same thing. And in the end, I was like, I should just build this as software and sell it. why have I moved on from Observant? And the short answer is I shouldn't have done, and I'm trying not to. Like every time I talk about this, or every time I go somewhere else, I like drag myself back to Observant because I think it could have massive potential. It could turn into a much bigger business. I haven't done enough work on it yet to find out the answer to those questions. So yes, I'm getting sucked into like SQL for Humans. Yes, I'm getting sucked into other ideas and stuff I want to build, but I keep on trying to deliberately step back from those and back to Observant for now, which is actually part of why SQL for Humans is so late, because it's a great idea. It had great traction. I feel like it has massive potential, but so does this thing that I've already built, that I'm already working on, and I shouldn't walk away from that yet. So I don't know, does that answer the question a little bit?
Yeah, it does. Is there a reason? I don't think Observant is on your bio, your Twitter profile.
That's right. It's because it's like very niche. So it's aimed at people who have a contract with YouTube to protect like the rights for their music or their films or their TV shows or whatever on YouTube using the backend systems. So like, I'm not going to find customers from Twitter. And actually all I'm going to do is waste time answering questions about something that most people will never buy from me. So my sales process for that is like direct outreach and email and so on. It's not worth taking bio space on it, but that is the business that I think is most successful. And if you look at my tweets about stuff I'm building, hopefully most of them are about Observant and related stuff rather than anything else, because that is actually the one that I'm spending my time on.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. When I first started following you, you had done like a thread about how to leverage like your consulting practice to build your startup. And I actually thought that it was for SQL for Humans. I didn't realize it was actually for Observant. So it's actually really interesting to now kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, it's actually, in a way, I guess it's kind of both, right? Because SQL for Humans has kind of come out of the same area. But yes, it was about Observant originally. So interesting that wasn't clear. And I've just kind of, this is it. This is what I'm saying about my tweets are not that like well thought out a lot of the time.
No, I just didn't know you had Observant. So that's super interesting. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, Ben. I was wondering if you are building in public with like all of your products, and also like, is there like a product for which it works better? Yeah, that's about it actually.
Everything I'm building, I tweet about because I think it's usually interesting enough to other people building, right? So I guess there's nothing I'm building in secret, and I can't really think why I would ever build anything in secret. The only thing I haven't tweeted about like publicly yet or built in public yet is I was approached a couple of weeks ago about being potentially a founder / CTO for some new startup at quite an early stage. And we haven't got on board together yet. I don't know how that's going to work out in the long term and so on. I don't know how they'll feel about those tweets. So for now, that has been like below board. And I won't tweet about that until it feels right and everyone's happy with it. But generally, I would just build in public whenever I can. It works better, I think, honestly, it works well for everything, right? Like Observant, I think, is the one that I have most interesting things to say and gets the most engagement, even though that's the one that nobody on Twitter is ever going to buy from me. So yeah, maybe it's even better for the ones that you're not trying to sell to your audience.
Thanks. Yeah. And how's your time to coffee lately?
I know I've stopped doing that because I've been leaving my phone upstairs instead of taking it downstairs with my kids in the morning. I've been trying to like be more present with my kids when I have breakfast with them. So yeah. I haven't been able to tweak my time to coffee, but it's getting better at the moment. I've been cranking out the old espresso machine and having like 2-minute coffees. So
nice.
I love that you're thinking about that, even like a month down the line anyway.
This is obviously the first time I've sort of seen you speak, heard you speak, like there's not a tweet. And I was wondering if you'd ever considered any other platforms other than Twitter to like put yourself out there, like I guess YouTube being an obvious example, or I don't know, maybe to a lesser extent sort of Instagram stories or something like that.
A little bit. Like I've always liked the idea of a YouTube channel, but realistically, like YouTube is a heck of a lot of work. Like creating the videos is so much overhead in the editing, everything. Like it's not a small amount of work. Part of the reason I am semi-successful on Twitter, I think, is that I can do it basically every day, and that's because I can do it in less than 10 minutes a day. I couldn't do that with YouTube. I couldn't do that with Twitter. With Instagram. I have my blog as well, but I basically never write to it again because I can't just fit it in 10-minute gaps here and there. So I don't really think about other platforms for that reason, just out of convenience. Like, ultimately, my goals are not like grow a massive follower audience or grow a massive social media presence. I'm doing this as like a bit of fun on the side because it might open new doors for me, but it's not my primary thing I'm trying to do. My primary thing is trying to build a business. So I don't want to sacrifice a bunch of that on YouTube unless YouTube was going to be my business, which if it is, like, there are so many people who make a lot of success on YouTube, right? So great for them, but that's not my goal, and I can't justify the time commitment. I also don't feel like people would want to watch videos of me on YouTube.
I disagree. I think I have this dream. I'd love to do loads of YouTube videos. I have that same thought process, but actually you come across really well, and you're very well spoken. You're very eloquent. You're a great communicator, and I actually think that I think you'd be surprised actually.
Thank you. Now I just need to find something to say in the time to record it. But
yeah, exactly. That's the $1 million problem, isn't it?
Hey, hi Ben, hi everyone. Sorry I was late. We're meeting our child is meeting the family for the first time these days, so it's obviously got a bit out of hand, but it's pretty cool, awesome. I wanted to just quickly ask about in relation to doing freelancing versus like product development. You know, if the freelancing is going well, and you get short contracts which pay well, and then that gives you the free time after to be with family or whatever. What's the drive to actually? It's quite, because I personally find it quite hard to actually say, oh, you know, I'm not going to say be with the family, or I'm not going to work on the freelance work. I'm going to do something else, because it's almost like so immediate and it works well. So what's the drive that you have that keeps you going back to doing, say, Observant, or doing obviously SQL for Humans or whatever?
Really good question. When I first went like independent, when I quit my job, I didn't expect consulting and freelance work to appear. I didn't ever chase it. I didn't go after it. It kept on landing in my inbox because I've worked with enough people over enough years, and apparently I've done good work, that they were like, hey, can you come and advise us on this now? Or can you come and build this for us now? So when it first happened, I was surprised and shocked and almost said no to it, because it wasn't what I was planning to do. And in the end, I was like, you know what? I'm not making any money yet. This was like 4 months into my journey of creation. Let's just try it and see how it goes. And actually, I really enjoyed it, because it was basically my old job at Google, except I was getting paid like directly for the time I was spending. They seemed to value it more, and it opened up like new areas of stuff I could build, like Observant. As new stuff has rolled in, like new opportunities have rolled in, it's like word of mouth and stuff. Every time I've just been like, you know what, this can pay for so much of my expenses because we've got low cost of living. I just need to do it, bank another month's worth of money, and then it's another month to get billed with later on. So yeah, your question of like, why build something else? Why not just do consulting and then spend time with family? I guess the answer to that is, I didn't expect the consulting work to appear to begin with. I can't believe how lucky I am that it keeps on showing up at my door with no effort. I can't believe how lucky I am that I'm getting paid so well for it. And I don't believe it's going to continue indefinitely. I think it's going to dry up at some point. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe word of mouth is going to turn it into infinite money forever. But I don't want to bank or bet my future on that. I want to bet my future on something a bit more under my control. I also want to bet my future on something I enjoy doing more, which is effectively writing code and selling the software that I've written. So by going back to the product and kind of building something that I own, I'm in control of, and that I can kind of maintain over time, it's actually what I wanted to do originally anyway. And I'm not dependent on somebody else, or if I am, it's hundreds of customers, not 1 or 2 clients. If I thought I could get away with working 1 day a week in consulting for the rest of my life, and it wouldn't be stressful and it would always show up on my door, then maybe I wouldn't bother doing the product stuff. But I don't believe it, and I enjoy the product stuff too much anyway.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it makes 100% sense. Yeah, I think the availability of work is so hard to judge that it makes so much sense to sort of have that, at least as even a fallback or some kind of other solution. But okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Ben.
Hey.
My question is around taking time out for yourself. So I'm wondering if you ever get burnt out from your main work, and whether you have side projects or hobbies that you go back to. Because you mentioned Spell Tracker, the app that you built, as one of your main hobbies that you built, but it didn't get traction. So you kind of just moved on to building your software business and SQL course. So do you go back to it whenever you feel like you need to take a breather for your main work, or how do you cope when you face burnout? If you,
I think I struggle with this quite a lot. Basically, the good thing is I really enjoy my product building work at the moment. And Spell Tracker was my hobby in that it was letting me write software for myself for fun and trying to sell it and all that kind of stuff. Now that's my day job when I'm doing product work. So in a way, I feel like my day job is my side project and escape and fun and hobby. Like, I genuinely love writing software when I'm in full control of it and I'm the one that's going to sell it and all that whole process. So that is my release. I don't have any other side projects right now, even though there's loads of like video games that I kind of want to make, or fun side project apps I want to make. I don't do them because when I'm not working, I'm trying to be present with my family and my kids, because I've got a 4-month-old baby and a 2.5-year-old girl, and like they're only going to be young once, and I want to make the most of that. And when they go to bed, finally at like 8 p.m. or whatever, I'm then spending the evening trying to spend like an hour or two with my wife before she goes to bed as well. And like side projects would take away from either the kids or my wife. And actually, like, what am I doing? I'm trying to spend time with them. That's part of the reason I don't want to work in London, commute every day, like do massive long hours. So effectively, I don't have side projects. I don't really have like too much time for myself because it's always with family or it's working. But that's okay for me and sustainable for me because my work is something I find so much joy in. And I'm very, very lucky and fortunate that I've been able to structure my life to enjoy that work. If I didn't enjoy that work, like when I was still working at Google, I wasn't enjoying it at the end. Not because it wasn't a great job, but just because I've been doing it for forever. If I wasn't enjoying my day job, actually, it was pretty awful because I didn't have any time for myself and I didn't enjoy my day. And that was kind of burnout. And that's part of what pushed me towards quitting and taking this risk. Is I was having a horrible time, and then I quit and I wasn't having a horrible time anymore. So I know that's kind of a weird answer. It's basically saying I'm very, very privileged and lucky that I have like my dream life, and I don't need side projects for that reason, but that's where we are.
got it. Thanks. I'm happy that you have the life that you dream of.
So am I. Long may it last. And I hope everyone else can build their own as well.
Yeah, we do have a lot of dads in here, so I guess we all understand. With babies, that's not your side project, that's your main project.
So I'm going to come back to something similar that we talked about earlier. You mentioned how you test some of your ideas on Twitter. I'm curious as to how you go about that. I don't think I've read tweets from you on that. So are you like more pitching the idea? Are you talking about the problem that you're trying to solve? Is it an assumption that you're testing that would break the business? I'm curious how you go about that and how you measure if there truly is. How do you know that the likes, for example, aren't just people who like all your tweets versus actually like the idea?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm very unscientific. Generally, I'm trying not to pitch. I'm trying to be like, oh man, I really wish X, Y, and Z existed. Or like I had this massive problem with A, B, and C. And trying to see like what the engagement is on that. And if a load of people are like, yes, every day this gets me, or I solve it with this product or whatever, like that gives me some indication of, is it a problem other people cared enough to either buy a solution, make a solution, or wish there was one. And then like with humans, in the end, that got so many people, like it was resonating with so many people, so many retweets, so many likes. But I thought, okay, this could be real. Like let's stick an Airtable sign up form on the end and eventually a landing page instead. And then I could get a little bit more concrete validation. Like, is it just retweets and likes? Or do people care enough that they sign up and fill out a form? They did. I got like 800 people in like 48 hours or something stupid. And I'm now over 1,000 people subscribed, and it's still just a landing page, right? Like there's not even any content yet. So it's basically a sort of multi-stage approach of share something I'm struggling with, or I wish existed, or I think might be useful, like in a non-pitchy way, kind of like the mom test book, trying to follow those principles, see what the engagement's like. If it's really strong, maybe throw some form of form or some way to like get a little bit more buy-in, and then talk to people who have signed up, talking DMs, talking emails, and so on. With SQL Humans as well, like so many people DM'd me to be like, I want to buy this for my company, and the 10 people on my team how much will it cost? Or like, when is this ready? I can get emails every day on like, when is this going to get released? Like that gives me a bit of knowledge that it's not just likes on Twitter. So I think it's that multi-stage process, and I only commit to like the landing page once I had enough traction already on the tweets. And actually, I say this like I do it repeatedly. I've only done this once so far with Super for Humans, so I don't, maybe this won't work ever again. I don't know, but it worked once.
Yeah, that's awesome. Even with like the short shelf life of a tweet, you're able to still get so much traction with it. I think is a really good proof point. I would think that, like, for example, LinkedIn posts last for way longer. And so therefore you might be able to capture more, but the fact that you're able to get that much traction in a short 48 hours, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I put a lot of follow-up into that first tweet. As it started getting momentum, I was like having more threads. The thread got longer. I was replying to more stuff. I was basically, I can't remember how I did this now, but I was finding ways to get retweets from like Peter Levels and Daniel Vassallo. I can't remember what I did to do that, but I did. And like that shot my engagement through the roof as well. So once I saw it started to get traction, I was trying to find ways to like double down on that and find out, like, could I increase that shelf life a little bit more? And it worked. I kept revisiting to it and posting back to that original thread. It's the pinned thread in my profile as well. So like once I knew something was there, I do try and like extend the life of that as much as possible.
Do you remember how many followers about you had then? Like, with, let's say, a sub 1,000 follower account work?
What was I at? It was a lot lower than now. I think it was maybe like 2,000 followers or something. It was closer to 2,000 than like now, which is like 6.5 or almost 7 or something. And yeah, the engagement really surprised me, but it was mostly through like much bigger accounts. I don't know how I ended up saying it, but they did. And then I got quite a few like replies and retweets and comments and so on. And like I said, big people like Peter Levels with like 100K followers, like that was just massive. So yeah, if you can get engagement from the right accounts, like absolutely works with smaller accounts. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
It might also be because like SQL for Human is such an interesting topic. If the course is about, or the book is about like growing Twitter, everyone is doing that. So it's nothing special. So that might be a reason.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was just going to comment on that. Like,
yeah, sure.
One of my pet hates is like, here's how I got to X hundred followers on Twitter, and here's how you can do it too. Because I feel like every account that gets to a certain stage decides that they have something to share on this and wants to share it again. It's the same old thing. And like, this doesn't mean Public Lab, because Public Lab has its own unique angle, right? Like yours is not just about how to grow on Twitter. It's like, how do I build in public? How do I use this to like move my future forward and find out the right thing to work on and to grow my brand? But like the generic, like, here's how to get your next 200 followers. It's always like generic and the same kind of stuff. And I just don't really like it very much. And I think everyone is bored of it. Like everyone is interested by the first thing they see like that when they join Twitter. The first one they see, they're like, wow, this is amazing. I was so hyped when I saw Bruno's like Twitter 500 thing, because that's the first one I saw. And actually I followed all his advice. It was amazing. So like, yes, I think some courses can be interesting, but if you can find something unique and different, you will get so much more engagement. If you're not the 50th version of this course they've seen, it will go there. So just find your unique stuff, whatever it might be. And if you haven't got anything unique, combine 2 or 3 different things from your life and it will be.
SQL for Humans is a very niche topic. And I mean, I had written SQL 10 years ago, right? And then I haven't written it, I haven't needed it. So I thought it was archaic technology. Nobody's using SQL anymore. But when I saw your course and the amount of engagement that it's getting, I would have never thought that Twitter would be a place to sell a course like that. Maybe Stack Overflow, maybe LinkedIn. I don't know. I mean, how do you judge the TAM for such kind of a product, or possibly? I mean, yeah. Is it just the engagement that you were getting on that tweet that made you do it? Or how do you find those kind of people? That's basically my, if you go doing something super niche, which doesn't get talked about on Twitter a lot.
I mean, this is survivorship bias in action, right? Like we're talking about this course because this is the one that blew up. All my tweets that were potentially similar that no one cared about we're not talking about today. So I don't necessarily think I could predict that I didn't predict it in advance, right? Like it just happened. That said, like Twitter is massive. Every single niche imaginable will be on Twitter. The question is whether your follower like group and the followers that will retweet and like and share overlap with that niche or not. In my case, like SQL for Humans is like, well, I have a ton of developers and builders in my follower list. Every developer does touch SQL one way or another, even if it's only through their libraries. Everyone kind of vaguely knows what it is because of that. So I thought it might work. If your niche is like so niche that no one who follows you will know what on earth it is, like, no, it's probably not the right place to try and promote it. But
okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, I think my question is kind of like, in terms of you often talk about on Twitter, you talk about, you know, you're balancing life with your children and selling the house and so on and so forth, buying a house and whatever. But now that you've actually achieved something where, for example, you have all these people waiting for SQL for Humans and so on, is that not adding stress to you now that obviously you didn't necessarily have before? So you're sort of, you have anyway a kind of complicated life, as many people do, and then on top of it now you've got more stuff going on. And I'm just wondering, is it something that you're sort of trying to manage in a different way now, or you're good at taking these things under the wing and just kind of going with it, basically?
No, it's a good question. I'm really struggling with it, honestly. Like, I felt really overwhelmed at times this year, particularly when we were in the middle of the house hunting. Like, we were spending maybe days a week driving to try and find houses, researching every evening, all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, work was mounting up. I had consulting to do. I had this pressure of like, deliver this course. I really struggled with it. I was really quite down about it at times. And part of that is taking too much on or trying to do too much, which has always kind of been I get excited about something, I say yes, or I run with it, or I go for it, and then later on I can regret it. But I don't want to just say no to things and not chase things and not throw ideas out there, because part of the reason I think I'm so lucky, apart from my privilege, is like, you make your own luck in some ways. Now, I believe two very contradictory things. Like, most of your luck is where you were born, who you were born to, how you were raised, and like that kind of stuff. But the other small percentage, like, you make yourself, and you make yourself by doing in public, by talking to people, by saying yes, by being generous, by being kind, by jumping on board, by being enthusiastic. And I don't want to stop making my own luck. So I'm trying to balance like kicking off these new things that I don't have time for with losing some of my lucky momentum and regretting it down the line. What I'm trying to like balance now is I've just made peace with the fact that like SQL for Humans is going to be later. I keep saying like later this summer. Realistically, we're going to end up moving house in the next month or two, probably, when all the legal stuff happens. So it's going to be even later than that. I have the Observant stuff took way longer than I expected to do the rewrite, so it's going to be later because of that. I'm still only working about 6 hours a day because I'm spending so much time with the family, which is great, but it means that everything takes longer. Consulting work is stacking up, so everything takes longer. Like, I've just got to make peace with this. So, you know, I think keep trying to make your own luck, but like, be okay when things slip or when you can't actually deliver, I think is probably my kind of summary there.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah, just make peace with the fact that it's not going to happen when you expected it to, and just let it go. Yeah, thanks.
And if people are disappointed, then that kind of means that they were excited about it to begin with, right? So that's a good thing in a way, and hopefully they still will be in the future. Like you said, SQL has been around for decades. So if people are interested in the course now, they'll be interested in the course in 3 months.
Wow, this conversation is really, really good. I have to say, Ben, I have to say you're a really good example of being an authentic entrepreneur. So thank you for being here. My last question to you is, I mean, we all know you're working on SQL for Humans, but what else are you working on so that we can follow your journey? Most of us are already following you, but yeah.
Working on building the dream life. So yeah, you know, those of you who hadn't seen it before, if you want to check out what Observant is, it's observant.app. If you are a YouTube content owner or you have a contract with YouTube, then it's interesting. Take a look. If you know one, tell them, and then they can take a look. So that's my main focus. On the side, I'm building Secretive Humans, and that's my next big focus after Observant gets the traction. There's a long laundry list after that, but we'll leave it there. But follow me, twitter.com/Ben Barbersmith, and you can read about my coffee tweets, my inane parenting tweets, and everything else that goes with it.
Thank you so much, Ben. Yeah. Woo.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful questions.
Thank you.
This is like the first time I've done this ever, so I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to hit me up in DMs with thoughts afterwards, because if maybe I do one in the future, who knows? Thank you for inviting me, Kevin.
Yeah, we got your first YouTube episode right here, so you can just upload it. So as our ritual, can we wave goodbye? Can I take a screenshot of this? All right, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you, Ben. See you all later.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
It's great
Bye,
to see some
everyone.
real faces.
Bye.
Bye.